like 15 minutes of very controlled use cases. They sat them down and they had, before they used it, they would ask people their perceptions of Vista, the Microsoft researcher, and then after they played with it, they'd ask them their opinions of Mojave. And they were told that this Mojave was Microsoft's successor to Vista. This is what's coming out after Vista. And then at the end of their questions, when they were positive and they were saying, "Oh yes, this Mojave is actually quite good and quite like it, and I want to buy this. This is a great thing." Then the researcher would say, "Ha ha! It was actually Vista after all. We just changed the skin. We fooled you." And just to see people's reactions to say, "Oh, this was Vista after all," and I just thought that was really, really underhanded. But well, also, there again, I expect nothing less from Microsoft, you know.
But it was also put onto hardware which Microsoft would probably have ruthlessly checked prior to inflicting it on the audience, as it were. It certainly wasn't a real world, because there was quite a few YouTube videos where real users actually bought it off the shelves, took it home, and tried to install it on their machines, and that was the sort of true test of it. And I think it
the works well on the shredder, actually.
Yes,
I think we should send one to Gordon. He's maybe going to develop a taste for a Vista if it's still available in the shops.
We'll have to link that in the show notes, because that was a very good YouTube. What we're always talking about for the listeners, that's a YouTube video where a chap had bought Vista and it didn't work on his machine. He was a little bit upset, so he tried to install it on his shredder, and to be fair, it worked very well. That'll be linked on the show notes. It's actually a very funny video. Unfortunately, it's funny at the expense of his pocket, because he would have had to pay for the software. So it's sort of double-edged sword, that video. Yes, sorry, Gordon.
Yeah, the thing with Project Mojave, I mean, people say, "Oh, it was just smoke and mirrors, and it was never actually released." Well, newsflash, it was released. They didn't call it Mojave, though. They call it Windows 7.
It was more of a... I say it's a bit of a test case to whether they can just take Vista, just change the GUI a little bit, and try to fool people by doing lots of advertising, as they did with $500 million in advertising budget.
Yeah, I think they did make some changes to Windows 7 to address some of the things, but yeah, I mean, basically, it is Vista with a new name and a new desktop and stuff. Yeah, essentially. So, yeah.
And they also ridiculed the people in the videos. To be honest, I haven't watched these videos. I've read the descriptions of them. I just watched parts of them. But one of the issues that they have in some of the videos I've seen is that they ridicule the people it's a very patronizing attitude. It's kind of like, you're an idiot, you don't like Vista, and you're an idiot, and it is Vista, and we fooled you. And it's an insulting thing, and I think that's been pointed out by Joe Wilcox, actually.
Sorry, can I just add a very interesting point here? Sorry to interrupt you, Roy. I just obviously got up the links for the show notes, because we try to link to everything that we mention here. And I was going to obviously link to the I pronounce it Mojave experiment, but I probably
Mojave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Mexican bean, not a bean, a leaf. Yeah, it's a plant basically.
I'll concede to Gordon's pronunciation. So, but going to the site that I'm going to be linking on the show notes, when you actually look at it now, before you could click on it and you could actually see the people that participated in the experiment giving a little comment and a few little videos. Now what it says is that link's been removed, or appears to be removed. It says the experiment has been completed and our researchers are now experimenting with Windows 7. You click on the link and it goes to Windows 7. So they've actually removed that particular feature now, which is a shame, because it was funny reading press releases and talk about Windows 7 when that came out, and when reference was made to Vista. And my interpretation, certainly from reading the Microsoft releases to the press, were that they were virtually agreeing with the bad press of Vista, saying that it hadn't been a success, and obviously wanting people to buy Windows 7. So so even Microsoft now has removed that link. So unfortunately, people looking to see what we're talking about.
They just let you download the thing now. Or not download, but at least see the actual details of what it became. Because essentially, that's kind of, there is the branding issue, and there is the experiment to see if you can change people's perception to make people buy the same thing. Because they released about almost 3 years apart the different operating systems, so people had newer equipment. and they had better hardware support just because the companies making the printers and everything made things a bit more prepared. But also it's a lot to do with perception. I find I can barely tell the difference between the two things unless I see the desk bar at the bottom, and then I can actually tell if it's Vista or something else. Everything else is pretty much the same. And have you heard about the new vaporware now? They have the I call it Vista 8, but they call it Windows 8. And now they talk about this thing called Wave, which is like sorry, not Wave. I think it's called Wind actually, which is a bit like Gordon calls himself Thistlewind. I see sometimes. Oh. And the thing about it, it's just a name. They don't show you anything about they basically try to describe what they want to do in terms of words. They float these things around, and they try to get people to talk about the future versions, and it's coming real soon now. So just stay with us, stay with Windows, because we have something really exciting coming. And that's what they've been doing since the 80s.
Well, I mean, I've made reference on my site often that I perceive the Microsoft logo to be it'll be better next time, which is what they always seem to do. It's just like, as I made reference recently, when you type in Microsoft blames into Google, you get a whole plethora of people's fault apart from Microsoft's why things have gone wrong, which is par for the course, I think, with Microsoft. But yeah, Windows 8, I've seen a few rumblings about that, and again, it's going to be another thing which will be the greatest thing ever, according to Microsoft advocates, as soon as it comes out, and everybody should upgrade. It'll be same old, same old. And like I said, it goes back to the point. The only true advocacy you see on the Windows platform are the users that are determined to stay with XP. That's certainly my view of it, and they get quite passionate. So I think that says a lot about users that I've read and their views on how Microsoft is progressing into the future.
There's also just a final point before we move on. With paid software, whether it's open source or closed, there's also a difference as well. If I say to you that, the new open office out, you should go and download it. It doesn't cost you a bean to go and download it. If you've got 10 computers in your little company that all use open office, it doesn't cost you a penny to do that. Whereas with the paid software thing, if they say like, Office 2007 doesn't support this particular extension, or just go and download 2010, you're sitting, wait a minute, how much is that going to cost me per license to just open this file, just so that it's compatible? And then you think, well, Office 2010, it doesn't work on XP, say, so we're going to have to go and buy Windows Vista or Windows 7 just so that we can install, to pay for and install Office 2010. And of course, Windows 7 won't run on that hardware. So guess what? We need to go and buy a new computer just to have that. And then once we've got that, say we've got 7 other applications that we need, and they don't have Windows 7 versions, or 2 of them have, but you need to go and buy that again. So it's a case of keep spending more and more and more money. When they say, just go and download the new version work with it. It's always money. Whereas with free, as in cost software, it doesn't cost you a bean. Go and upgrade the new latest Ubuntu or the latest Fedora, it doesn't cost you anything other than time and a little bit of backup preparation and all that. So,
and it also highlights another point. Well, certainly for me, and I'm only speaking for myself here, but my and I don't like using the word advocate because that implies that people are single-minded to a certain subject or a certain ethos or whatever. But with free software, I certainly don't advocate free software because it's free. The free part for me is an extra bonus. It's great that I can download OpenOffice like Gordon says, and I don't have to worry about cost. If I don't like it, I can scrub it off and I haven't lost anything. But it's the fact that the free software is better software, certainly in my experience. I mean, so we sit here doing this audio cast, myself, Gordon and Roy, and I don't think any of us would waste our time talking about free software and all the great things that are happening in the community at the moment if the software itself wasn't better, forgetting about the price for a second. And that's another important part. The free part, I think, should be highlighted as being an added bonus, not not the main selling point, as it were, for want of a better word. I mean, I use Abbey Word, for example, and that does everything that Microsoft Word ever does for me at work. And certainly I wouldn't even dream of purchasing Microsoft Word, even if I was running a Windows